In the blistering afternoon heat of a Navy SEAL training yard in Norfolk, Virginia, on a sweltering July day in 2024, Emily Carter stepped onto the sand, her worn training uniform devoid of rank. Barely 5 feet tall, with her dark hair pulled into a tight ponytail and no trace of makeup, she looked out of place among the towering recruits. A group of men, sweat-soaked and cocky, jeered as she approached. "This ain't your playground, darling," one sneered. Instructor Commander Thompson, a grizzled veteran with a voice like gravel, scoffed, "You'll be limping home by sundown." The yard buzzed with laughter, everyone expecting her to crumble. But when Thompson lunged, aiming to overpower her, Emily sidestepped, locked his wrist, and yanked his training knife from his belt in one fluid motion. The blade hit the sand with a sharp clank, silencing the crowd like a gunshot. It all began a week earlier. Emily stood outside the base's chain-link gate, duffel bag slung over her shoulder, dressed in a plain black t-shirt and faded cargo pants. A guard, squinting like she was a stray tourist, demanded her ID with a smirk. She handed it over, her face unreadable. His eyes widened at the clearance level, but he said nothing, just waved her through. As she passed, she overheard him mutter to another guard, "Who let her in?" Emily didn't react. Her boots crunched on the gravel as she moved forward, unfazed. Raised in a family that owned half of Manhattan's skyline, she'd learned early to carry herself with quiet confidence. Her father, a titan of finance, taught her that real power doesn't need a megaphone. Her mother, a diplomat who charmed world leaders, showed her how to command a room without speaking. But Emily rejected their world of glitz, choosing plain clothes and a life of discipline. She'd been mastering martial arts since she was 7, her family's wealth enough to buy the base 10 times over, but no one here knew that. To them, she was just a small, unassuming woman who didn't belong. As she crossed the base, a jeep rolled up, kicking dust into her face. The driver, a smug officer named Lieutenant Bradley, leaned out. "Hey, you lost? Civilians don't stroll around here," he barked, his voice dripping with authority. Nearby recruits snickered. Emily kept walking, her pace steady, but glanced at him, her gray eyes catching the glint of his badge. "I'm exactly where I need to be," she said, her tone flat but firm. Bradley's jaw twitched, but she turned away, leaving him gripping the wheel, his ego bruised. The training yard was a crucible. The sun scorched the sand, and Emily stood at the edge, stretching as the male recruits traded loud laughs. One, a cocky recruit named Jake with a frat boy grin, spotted her. "Yo, sweetheart, wrong place." "Office is that way," he called, sparking chuckles. Before she could respond, a female recruit, Lauren, with glossy nails and a swaying ponytail, sauntered over. "Honey, this is SEAL training, not a yoga class," she said, her smile venomous. "That outfit, did you dig it out of a dumpster?" The men roared. Emily didn't flinch, just kept stretching. "It works fine," she replied, her voice barely audible, eyes flicking to Lauren's polished boots. Lauren's smirk faltered, but she strutted off, muttering about Emily crying later. Another recruit, Tom, wiry with a crooked grin, chimed in. "Lady, this is hand-to-hand combat. You'll get hurt." The crowd laughed louder, and a hulking recruit named Ryan shouted, "What's she gonna do? Knit us scarves?" The yard erupted. Emily stood, her gaze sweeping the group, then walked to the sandbags. Her punches were precise, each hit controlled, her feet rooted like she'd done this 1,000 times. The laughter faded slightly. Jake stepped closer, arms crossed. "This isn't spin class. You're out of your depth." Emily paused, fist against the bag, and met his eyes. "Am I?" she asked, her voice calm as a still lake. Jake blinked, thrown off, but before he could reply, she resumed her rhythm. Instructor Malone, a battle-scarred man with a permanent scowl, approached. "You're wasting my time," he barked. "This isn't a daycare. Quit now." The recruits snickered, Ryan yelling, "Save us the trouble of dragging you out." Emily's punches didn't waver. "I'll stay," she said, her voice slicing through the noise. Malone turned away, muttering. Then Commander Thompson stepped into the yard center, clapping sharply. "Who's tough enough to face me?" he roared. The recruits cheered, fists pumping. No one looked at Emily, assuming she'd slink to the sidelines. But she stepped forward, tying her ponytail tighter. The yard went silent, then exploded in laughter. Ryan cupped his hands. "This'll be quick," Tom muttered. "She's got nerve, but she's toast." Thompson grinned, mocking. 30 seconds, princess, and you're done." The crowd roared. Emily stood still, hands loose, eyes locked on him. He lunged, grabbing her shoulder to throw her off balance. The recruits went wild, Jake shouting, "She's weak." Thompson brushed his hand against her cheek, a belittling gesture. A young recruit, Sam, barely 19, pushed forward, his voice shaky but loud. "Don't go easy on her just 'cause she's a girl." The crowd's laughter turned crueler. Emily's fingers tightened briefly, but she reset her stance, eyes never leaving Thompson. He charged again, aiming to lock her arm. But Emily pivoted, using his momentum to twist his wrist until he froze, pain flashing across his face. The crowd hushed, stunned. She held him a moment, then released. "Keep going," she asked, calm as ever. Thompson shook out his arm, jaw tight. "A sergeant," Carter shouted from the back. "Don't lose to a girl, Thompson." The laughter returned, but it was uneasy. Thompson lunged harder, aiming for her neck. Emily dropped her weight, slipped his grip, and in one motion, yanked his training knife from his belt. It hit the sand with a deafening clang. The yard froze. She picked it up, holding it out. "Secure your gear," she said, like she was noting a scuff on his boot. Thompson stared, speechless. A clerk, Megan, scoffed from the sidelines. "She probably rehearsed that move for months. Doesn't mean she's good." Emily set the knife down, her eyes flicking to Megan, who flinched but kept her chin up. "One move's enough," Emily said softly. Jake tried to laugh. "Pure luck." Tom jumped in. "Do it again." The crowd chanted, "Again." Emily shrugged and turned back to the sandbags, uninterested in their games. A radio crackled, and an aide, Walsh, jogged over, whispering to Thompson. He handed over a paper with a crest Emily recognized. Her fingers slowed on her gloves, but her face stayed blank. Thompson, face red, charged again, throwing a heavy hook. Emily dodged, circled behind, and slammed him to the ground with a hip throw. He hit the sand hard, gasping. The recruit's chance died. A colonel, watching from the fence, allowed a faint smile. A recruit, Diego, stocky with a snake tattoo, pushed forward. "She's just fast, no real strength," he shouted, pointing. "But she can't take me." Emily paused at the shed door. "I don't need to," she said, her voice a quiet blade. The colonel's smile grew. Emily walked into the shed, the recruits parting as she passed, some standing straighter. Thompson sat up, his face a mix of respect and disbelief. Jake muttered, "She's no ordinary soldier." Later, in the mess hall, Emily ate alone, ignoring the whispers. Lauren leaned to a group, loud enough to carry. Probably some general's daughter, coasting on connections. A few nodded, but Emily took a slow bite of her sandwich. "Connections don't win fights," she said, not looking up. Lauren's face froze. That night, Thompson sat in his office, flipping through Emily's file. Ex-shadow operative, undefeated in 10 classified hand-to-hand missions. He exhaled, muttering, "So it's you." The next morning, Emily cleaned rifles in the shed, her hands steady. Recruits stopped to watch, standing at attention as she stepped into the yard. Jake was discharged that day, his smirk gone. A video of Tom's taunts surfaced online, costing him a sponsorship. Ryan found himself shunned, his loud voice fading. The base shifted. Instructors checked files before speaking. Recruits stopped taunting. Emily's name became a warning. Don't judge the quiet ones. One day, a man in civilian clothes, tall, broad-shouldered, with a quiet authority entered the shed. The recruits froze. Thompson stopped mid-order. The man, Emily's husband, placed a hand on her shoulder. She looked up, her face softening, and nodded. They walked out together, the recruits watching in silence. Carter, the loud sergeant, was reassigned to a desk job. Emily left soon after, her assignment done, but her presence lingered. Years ago, her father had given her a worn book on discipline, saying, "Strength doesn't need to shout." That lesson carried her through. As she left the base with her husband, a young recruit, Mia, approached, clutching her water bottle. "I saw what you did," she whispered. "I want to be fearless like you." Emily handed her a folded training schedule. "Start here," she said. Mia nodded, clutching the paper. Emily walked away, the gate clanging shut behind her, the sunset casting long shadows. She didn't look back. The truth always catches up. What do you think? Can silence be stronger than bravado? Should Emily have fought harder to prove herself, or was her restraint the real victory? Drop a comment, hit like, and subscribe for more stories that challenge what you think you know. Where are you watching from?